Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Radio. We're talking Profiles in Excellence 2020. We were talking about leadership and sort of the leadership tenets that you were drawing upon as we embarked on this very uncertain and unknown journey. Maria, I'm going to throw it over to you. And sort of, what did you find yourself sort of leaning on and tying to most as you sort of work through this uncertainty? Certainly at the environment that you were operating at, across the interagency, et cetera, must have been daunting. I'm sure it still is.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. This is really where I want to, again, acknowledge the workforce in the federal government. Rocky said earlier when we were talking, every day is different. And this year has been a year of change, right? But what that change did with the workforce, it gave us that opportunity to really innovate and challenge the norms and status quo that we have now, right? So the workforce, and I'm not talking about the CIOs, CFOs, and the leadership, but it was the workforce that really helped get the bureaucracy and the red tape out of the way, reduce those barriers to meet the mission. And leaning on that for workforce was just so critical, because it wasn't just flipping to telework, it was all those additional requirements from the CARES Act and maintaining that momentum even through all this change. I will tell you that while I was at the SBA, right, the CARES Act came through, we had days to respond to the requirements, and those requirements were changing sometimes daily. And it was that workforce that rolled out portals within days, was able to respond to the PPP loans, the EIDL grants, and they worked hours, overnighters, and projects that we had planned later in the year, everything moved to the left and we accelerated. And this is really leaning on a staff that can respond to that change and to that innovation. And you saw this across the federal government, that innovation, yet we were still staying secure and being incredibly responsive, while at the same time we were just getting that red tape and the bureaucracy out of the way. And I think that's critically important in acknowledging that flexibility and that ability to innovate and be creative and respond even while you're flipping over to telework, the entire federal government, and responding to all those requirements. So I think leaning on the federal workforce that responded to the need to change and innovate and be creative and really address the mission, not 5 months from now, but within the next 24 hours.
Right, and 5 hours from now, right? Certainly is incredible and amazing, and hats off to all of you, and particularly watching what you had to do over there at SBA. It's just remarkable to see that transformation happen in such an instantaneous amount of time, right? And so important for the country on so many different levels. All right, well, we're going to start talking about priorities. We're going to start with you, Greg, over at App Dynamics, and we want you to highlight, point out, what are your top two priorities over the next year?
Yeah, thanks again, Luke. So, obviously the main priority is always to ensure that we have successful missions with our agencies that we work with. But, when you start looking at that application space, and I talked about the observability side of things, we totally recognize that there's bigger challenges in the industry beside one specific tool to be able to fix things. So by opening our platform and being able to drive innovation from a automated fashion is the direction that we're moving. And that's one of our top priorities, because if you think about it, as things become more and more complex and agencies need to innovate, they need to be able to drive, faster application adoption or faster features. Having that area of troubleshooting applications needs to be an automated fashion. It needs to have things happen quickly. So we've done things where we can start to integrate network metrics, application metrics, and then build automation on the auto correcting side, so that folks can move forward with innovation. And that's really, number one priority is to focus in that area. Number two is to ensure that we provide product sets that are going to be future proof. You saw last decade move heavily into the cloud. What's the next decade going to bring? We want to make sure that we're front and center in those new advances in technology, so that we can provide the right insights and analytics, so that the leaders on this call can make the right decisions with their technology stacks.
Yeah, certainly don't want that technology dated. Needs some sort of technology forward type capability there as we continue to transform. Every CIO has said can't can't stay where we are. Got to keep moving as far as the modernization capability and staying in front of it. Scott, how about at BMC Software? Tell
Yeah.
us what's your top two priorities there?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, we want to make sure from a human resources perspective, we're very thoughtful about how we're bringing our employees back to work and really, making sure that we provide them an environment, as the vaccines come out and things like that, that's safe, healthy, and productive, environment overall. I'll tell you that, I think that the pandemic has certainly changed the way that people look at, basically work from home and all of those different things. And, so that's going to be, a big priority for us, making sure our people are healthy and safe. Number two, from a technology perspective, we've been going through a digital transformation for the past 10 years and shutting down dozens of data centers and modernizing SaaS first approach with regards to our business systems and things like that. But really, BMC in the past has operated in silos of different products, and really our new vision is what we call the autonomous digital enterprise. And what does that mean? That really, it basically, it takes digital transformation to the next level. So automation everywhere, complete DevOps and agile, development principles, bringing all the data together in a common data set and repository, whether it's your monitoring tools, your ITSM tools, your automation tools, whatever they might be, whether it's mainframe or distributed, having all of that data readily available for our customers so they can really mine and get really the insights that they need to manage and maintain their business. And then, just trying to make sure that we're doing everything at really an adaptive cybersecurity level, as well, providing a transcendent customer experience. So, really taking all of these tools, bring them into this platform type of approach, and then offering all of those different, platforms, our ADE platform, in a SaaS-based environment. That, really all of the I'd say business that we're seeing now is SaaS. There's plenty of on-prem stuff still, but offering all of these different tools and capabilities in this in a SaaS environment.
Really positioning yourself for that cloud smart environment, right? That everyone talks about there. Super important.
That's exactly right, Luke.
Hey, Nick, how about over at Pure Storage? Top two priorities there for you all going forward over this next year.
Yeah, so from our perspective, very similar to BMC, and I'm sure this is a perspective that's being shared really across the industry in response to how customers want to consume enterprise infrastructure, applications, and services. We don't see ourselves as a storage company, but as a data service company. So our focus is really on evolving and to address the full scope of data services and data integration from end to end to deliver what we call a modern data experience. Our customers, especially in the US government, are looking for ways to leverage their data on premises and some of the largest infrastructure in the world, and then move that, leverage it, make it available across every infrastructure platform that they can consume. So a lot of that is the public cloud. And then there's obviously the data protection, integrity, and security aspects of this well. So from end to end, the data lifecycle, we're seeking to help facilitate addressing that. So our top priorities are transforming the entire data services experience to make it consumable as a subscription service, whether that's on-premises data service platforms or cloud-based data service infrastructure, application services, et cetera. And then make the implementation and utilization of those services invisible and infinite. We want customers basically to be, if we're doing our jobs well, we literally disappear into the IT infrastructure fabric. They don't even know it's there. The data just is there. It's performant. The applications run well. And the idea, we know we're successful in this endeavor when agencies are simply able to focus on application service delivery and integration and innovation, and simply assume that that can be implemented as a matter of course, regardless of whether that data is on premises or hosted in other infrastructure. And the second fundamental thing, because we work with data, is on hardening the security of these data services in the infrastructure appliances and the online services. So this is a huge, for us, whole of corporate effort to ensure we can deliver those capabilities to our customers, those services that they need to ensure the integrity of their systems and their data, to ensure statutory and regulatory compliance. But most importantly, without having to wrestle the infrastructure into submission to make it happen. You know, from our perspective, and we've proven this over and over again, and it's been seen everywhere, when security is built into the platforms and services that are procured, it is tremendously more efficient and more effective than when it has to be bolted on afterwards. So the standards are out there. The government publishes them freely and openly. We know what our building code is. So the move for us is to actually start engineering to that code to make it much easier for us to obtain the necessary certification, and therefore make it a lot simpler and more efficient for our customers to consume it. So those are our biggest initiatives for the next couple of years.
Absolutely, and two very important ones. Rocky, how about at Department of Energy? I know you got a whole building full of priorities over there. Give us your top two.
Top, I think, goes without saying, making sure people can continue to work where they're safe, right? So wherever that is, continue to work. The second one, a little bit different, is we want to make sure that we are better protecting our control systems across the department, right? We've done a great job on IT. Well, we constantly are doing a good job on IT, and we've got a good focus on that. But how do we look at OT and control systems? Not just from, I talked about the PMA earlier, the power marketing, but we have our scientific user facilities. We have construction sites. We have control systems all across the department, and we want to continue to improve our security of those systems. So the big ones are making sure people can work wherever they want to work, control system security, and then all of that, kind of the fundamental of all of that is continue to innovate, right? That culture of innovation and reducing that friction so people can innovate. So those are kind of the top two or three.
Right, that power grid must be absolutely secured and reliable. It's super important. Jim, how about at Veterans Affairs? Once again, I can't imagine all the priorities there, but give us the top two that are right on the in the top of the job jar for you guys.
Sure, Luke. And of course, all of these are aligned to our business and mission essential functions, across our diversified line of health, benefits, memorial services, and other ancillary activities. The two that I'll mention here would be a continuation of our digital transformation. And again, we didn't, we talked about a lot of successes, but certainly there were some things inside the pandemic that reveal weaknesses, some known, some unknown. So continuing our digital transformation journey, a lot of that around data, right? It's one of the reasons we're called the Office of Information and Technology at VA. We leverage the power of information through our corporate data warehouse. We didn't have a chance to mention it, but our national surveillance tool really provided VHA with that single source of truth across the entire integrated healthcare systems to inform the decisions of the leadership throughout, and to share it really with the COVID task force as well as one of the leading healthcare agencies in the department, in the federal government. Certainly our digital experience, Nick talked about his experience as a veteran. You're going to see more and more the app economy coming to VA around va.gov. Especially our older veterans, they want to meet on those digital channels on mobile and whatever. We will accelerate that. I talk a lot, I'll talk about it in our town hall this morning here in Florida, is tech is disrupting our industry partners. It's disrupting us, right? But it's disrupting us in a good way. I think we've mentioned it on the call here. A lot of opportunities for automation, a lot of opportunities for application performance monitoring, IT service management, using emerging tech around artificial intelligence and machine language. So again, we're going to look to take advantage of that disruption and get more efficient while we need more resources as well. Maria mentioned workforce, doubling down on workforce. I know there's really great work in the CIO Council with that, infrastructure, software, all that stuff in our digital transformation. The other one I'd mention here as a priority is, and again, I was really pleased from a vendor partnership standpoint during the pandemic. The Defense Production Act is a bit of a Cold War relic, and we use that as a hot wash item in the CIO Council. In a pandemic, we really kind of didn't have the priority that technology and the healthcare agencies needed to service it. I didn't mention earlier that the VA, in the time of a national emergency, VHA principally becomes the national healthcare system of record because of its presence throughout the country. So again, I know we've got some work there, but our vendor partners absolutely stepped up. I did dozens in March and April of vendor engagements with C-suite leaders. I can't say enough about their capability, even in a disrupted supply chain environment, to step up with us, scrum on some really wicked problems, solve fast, and provide the capabilities that our industry partners really have to do in order for us to continue to do what we do. So more on that. We've got almost $2 billion of tech spend annually, $28 billion in the department. So can't say enough about the importance of having that strong vendor partnership.
Yeah, amen on that. It's a very good point. Everyone leaning on a lot of those same key vendors, and boy, they really stepped up and made it happen. So kudos to all of them. Karen, how about over Department of Homeland Security? Top 2 priorities for you as you work through the next year over there.
So I echo what my colleagues have talked about returning to work safely, that is the top priority of the department overall. But I'm going to lump a lot of things into one priority, which is we can't miss a beat on any of the initiatives that we have underway, like EIS transformation, the DECO procurement, all of those things that we have to do. But I am going to go a little bit back to the roots for the second priority, because I don't want to re-echo a lot of the other pieces, which is the Chief Information Officer here at the Department of Homeland Security, and I'm sure with the other departments, is I'm also the Chief Risk Officer. And so really looking at risk management, to use the strategic use of information. As you know, we have many information holdings throughout the department, and making sure that those are available for mission space. We manage $7.2 or $7.4 billion of IT investment. So how do you do that with an ever-changing risk landscape? So I'm going to throw in there supply chain risk management, because that does involve all our industry partners. And that is something that we are very focused on with our major acquisitions going forward. And how are we going to manage that supply chain risk, the manufacturing, the advanced manufacturing, knowing that CBP is installing the equipment that they need to install, that is not opening up a threat vector for our nation state adversaries. So supply chain risk management, integration with FedRAMP on all of these things, so that we can take advantage of what our industry partners are doing while we are managing the risk for the department.
Very key piece there, and good catch. That so important across the interagency, right? As you pointed out, every single agency has this situation that they really need to keep an eye on that and make sure that doesn't sort of sneak up on them, if you will, and cause a lot of detrimental issues there. Maria, you're sitting at sort of the across the interagency, right? Looking at a lot of different moving parts here. A whole bunch of priorities that you all have already knocked off, a whole bunch more to go. Give us the top 2. Take us home here on sort of what as an aggregate, what are the top 2 priorities coming out of the White House these days?
Yeah, Luke, that list is a mile long, like you said, lots of things in play, lots executing right now. But I would say first, the federal government has to continue its transformation, the digital transformation my colleagues talked about. And that sustained IT modernization, right? The government has to be digital, nimble, resilient, secure. And we talked about AI and other technologies. In that digital transformation, we have to keep on with that, because it's not a one-off activity, and that requires sustained long-term investments. And really, the government has to adopt new techniques, technologies, approaches. And it also requires us to have foster that culture that embraces the risk, even that Karen talked about, right? We have to embrace risk to some degree, and agile adoption, and really encourages innovation, and not just in technology, but everything else, like acquisition, right? That digital delivery is a necessity for our customers, whether they're internal or external, the American public. And second, I think I want to highlight that that large modernization projects take time, funding, flexibility to manage well. And I think, as a priority, this is where, Congress can help. Overly restrictive deadlines, one-year funding, they create risk and uncertainty in a lot of the programs and projects across the federal government. We've got funding flexibilities like the TMF and the working capital funds, but we really need to look at that sustained long-term modernization, not just that digital transformation I talked about first, but really that sustainment and having that funding and flexibility to really drive the long-term modernization and the transformation that we need. Again, that multi-year funding to sustain that modernization, that remains, and we really need to continue to drive in that direction.
Well, I'm glad to see you highlighting that. And certainly I know that every CIO out there firmly is behind you on that and knows that they have to keep refreshing that infrastructure and the train tracks, the highway system, so to speak, to make sure all these capabilities can run on that and perform all the things that you are doing. I just want to say on behalf of every person in this country, I just want to thank every one of you. You're absolutely warriors. Your employees are warriors. If people could see the things that you all do behind the scenes, I'm sure they'd just be blown away. So I'm really happy to provide this platform that you all can express some of these capabilities and get it out there so people can understand it and appreciate it. I'd also like to thank the sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.